Welcome back to The Awakening. I'm Father Justin Waltz, and this is episode number 1 in my interview with Lance Goetz, who was hit by a train back in 1998. So to get things rolling, Lance, maybe we can just talk a little bit about what that day looked like leading up to the accident.
It was a very good day, actually. I know that's probably strange. The most traumatic, horrible day of my life was bright and sunny, but it was a great day. I was on my way to my last week of high school, ended up having a mass with my class at St. Mary's Central High School, and there was something momentous about our last mass. And where it was at the same place where my grandma had her funeral. So for some reason, I was feeling like she was watching over me. Ended up taking a final later that day, passed with a B+. It was a religion final. So I figure I'm a B+ Catholic at that point in time. I don't know if I got better or not, but at that point in time. And then I went home to my family farm, and I was comfortable there. My brother wanted me to go out and work in the field, but I had plans to go and play softball. It was the end of the year. I got to admit, at 18, there's a moment of invincibility that you have at that age. I felt like nothing could conquer me. And I was also scared for what the future would bring, but I was on a gravel road in the country. It was a rural track without arms and lights. They put up arms and lights afterwards. They used the Federal Highway Safety Administration and saw, hey, this is dangerous.
So just as a clarification to that, if you're not from like a rural state, there's a lot of railroad crossings that exist, in our case in North Dakota, that don't have, the arms, as we call them, that come down with the lights flashing, telling you a train is coming. It's just tracks going across a gravel road that people are constantly going across, coming and going from rural areas.
They did have a sign, and I did know the track was there, in fairness.
Probably traveled it a bunch of times.
Yeah, it was close to my farm. And the problem was it had trees and a really bad angle, but I was trying to compensate by looking extra on the right side where it was horrible, and by the time I looked to the left, there were trees, so I couldn't see the track. And as I kept going, ultimately, I saw the train once the trees stopped. I know that basically that's when the skid marks started. The police said it was about 67 feet of skid marks.
So prior to the train hitting you, the last thing that you remember is the actual visual of the train itself.
Yeah, just kept getting closer and closer. My dad always joked that I was lucky because it was an empty freight train doing 65 miles an hour. If it was full, who knows what would have happened. Much heavier, much worse.
Train is a train, yeah.
Could have been worse, right? But I remember thinking I should pull off to the side and roll in the ditch as I was slamming on the brakes. I remember thinking I might stop. I think I'm going to stop because I had almost 70 feet of skid marks. And I remember the last thought I had before the train hit my driver's side door at 65 miles an hour. The last thought was simply a prayer. And it was this idea that I had as a teenager that if I apologized, if I confessed, I would die in a state of grace and somehow go to heaven if I just managed to do it right before. And so I asked God to forgive me for my sins, not forgive me for the accident. That was just something that happened. It was just in a state of grace. I wanted to die in a state of grace because
that's really
the train was
profound,
coming.
man. Like you think, a lot of people, as you were thinking how to pull out, what to do, turn. But in a moment like that, it really reveals what's in your heart.
When all options are taken from you, all you have left is your faith. Yeah. That's the only thing I had left. I couldn't stop the car. I couldn't stop the train. And when it hit me, I was actually trying to, with a foot on the brake, scoot over because it was hitting my driver's side door. It's an amazing sight when they took a picture of the front of the train with the light out, and it's massive, and it's going so fast, nothing stops the train. Now, partly was a bad crossing they've had accidents at before, and partly was I was 18. I had my window down. I didn't hear it. I wasn't on any drugs. I wasn't drinking.
What time of day was it?
It was before a softball game, right around 5 o'clock.
Okay, so it was beginning of the evening.
Yep, it was beginning of the evening, between around 5, 6 o'clock. I know that the doctors were notified, but because I was so far out of town, they already heard my injuries and gave me a 99.9% chance that I would die right there. Never make it to the hospital. The first ambulance that made it to me found me crawling in the gravel, arm over arm, asking for my mom.
Were you ejected from the car then?
Yeah, I got thrown. I got thrown in the car, got crushed like a can.
So we're going to throw some pictures up Lance has shared with us right now, just so you can see what the car looked like after the train smashed into him that day.
I just want to add really quick, I might look a little uncomfortable talking about this. It's not my favorite topic. It's the most traumatic moment of my life, and it left me crippled and with a life of pain, chronic pain. So I'm speaking about my biggest mistakes, but because the more I talked about it, the more people were affected by it in a positive way, that to not tell this story after it's been over 25 years, and I've had people ask to write my story or ask me to write the story, or even some guys talk about making it into a biography, but I never really felt comfortable sharing with it, because especially on a platform as big as this, because who am I to share something like this? But I'm not that important. But ultimately, I've been able to see how it helps so many people, hearing from my trauma, from my tragedy, the troubles I had and the strength I took as a Christian from Jesus.
Lance, I think you've got one of the most profound stories ever. I think we all would ask the question, who am I? What's my witness worth? As we unpack this with you, the beauty of this story, everyone, is not the sensational end of being hit by a train, but over the next several episodes, Lance is going to share with us what the accident did to him and his road and journey of recovery, healing, and faith. Don't forget to subscribe, everyone, as we move on to episode number 2. I'm Father Justin Waltz, and this is The Awakening and my interview with Lance Goetz.